you're so irreplaceable. And everybody knows I want you, but I've always been so invisible to you. But I'm just waiting on you to pull back the curtains. And I've been standing on the sideline, waiting till the time's right to make you mine. 'Cause ever since the first time you opened up my world, I just can't seem to close my eyes and sleep. I'm locked inside this daydream, don't need any saving. But I need you to wake me up. Imagination is chasing after innocent love, but I've been wasting so much time living on cloud nine. Am I the only one who dreamed this up? And I've been standing on these highlights, waiting till the time's right to make you mine. 'Cause ever since the first time you opened up my world, I just can't seem to close my eyes and sleep. I'm locked inside this daydream, don't need any saving. But I need you to wake me when I fall asleep. I'm dreaming that you think of me. But if you're just too cool, I won't be your fool. Oh, when I fall asleep, I'm dreaming that you think of me. But if you're just too cool, I won't be your fool. Ever since the first time you opened up my world, I just can't seem to close my eyes and sleep. I'm locked inside this daydream, don't need any saving. But I need you to wake me up. Need you to wake me up when I'm falling asleep. Girl, won't you wake me up? I hope you're thinking of me. Oh, won't you wake me? Oh, won't you wake me up?
Hello, hello, hello. It has been so long. I feel like it's been so long since I've sat and talked to the camera. So hi, how are you? I apologize for taking a little bit of a break last week. I don't think I've ever mentioned this because I try to keep my professional life quite separate. But I work in book publishing actually. And as you may or may not be aware, book publishing in the fall is a crazy, crazy time. So work has been very crazy. It's just taken a lot of time and energy. So I took a little bit of a break. I don't know why I'm justifying this. It's fine. But I just wanted to really let you know where I've been. Let's update a little bit on my writing and my reading and all of the fun life things that have been happening. Not only has work life been a little bit crazy, I also have had a couple weekends away out of the city. Last weekend I went to visit my family, and it was the first time my entire family have been together in a really long time, actually. I honestly, I wonder if you heard Tom sneeze in the background. It was the first time in a really long time my entire family was together, and it was amazing, and it was such a good weekend. And this coming weekend, I'm actually going to Ottawa to visit my best friend. We are going to a few museums and just a lot of really great things. And I'm sure she's watching this right now. So hi, Laurel. I will literally see you today, and I'm so excited to see you. It's just been a little bit of a hectic time. That doesn't mean that I haven't been writing. Writing is still going incredibly well. My last writing vlog, I talked a little bit about how my word counts were quite low and how it didn't really matter because it was still going quite smoothly. And that's still the case. Essentially where I am in my writing, we're just gonna get this little blurb out of the way. I say it all the time, but I am currently writing a fantasy series. I'm writing the second book in this series. I wrote the first book last year. I'm currently on the first draft of the second book. I need to come up with a name for it so that I can just refer to it. I did a little bit of a reread of the first chunk and I'm feeling really good about this version. I think before I was kind of struggling with the introduction and the feel of the book, and this is the first time in probably a few months, and pretty much since I've started writing it, that I can feel the characters really strongly, and I'm feeling really good about where the plot is going, and I'm feeling really good about the scenes that I'm writing. So I'm not too far into it. Honestly, I didn't even think to check how far into it I actually am before sitting down, because it doesn't really matter. I mean, it might matter, I don't know, but it doesn't matter to me. I am just all about like how writing is feeling, and it's feeling really good. I am doing this thing where I'm rereading some of the scenes that I've previously written, and I'm kind of going through them and trying to really decide whether or not they're going to remain in. So that's actually what I did this morning. I reread a scene that I'd previously written and was feeling really good about it. It kind of sets up the next little bit for one of my characters. So I didn't get a whole lot of words down this morning, but again, does not matter. There's like a little bit of like a resistance happening to the war, and I'm really in love with revolutionary stories and revolutionary history. I think it's some of the most fascinating history in the whole world. So many cultures and so many countries have experienced versions of revolutions, and they happen in so many ways, and they often happen by incredibly brave people. Sometimes they happen by incredibly evil people. It's a very fascinating human experience, and that is essentially what I'm writing about. I feel like I just made it sound so pompous, but it's just a lot of fun to kind of explore that aspect of history. And then I am going to be writing a scene, hopefully on my lunch hour, about a field hospital. So there will be a lot of gritty writing there. And yeah, I thought that I would just kind of take you along on a random day of my life. I guess I haven't told you that it is a Wednesday. It's a Wednesday. I have work today. I have a ton of work today, actually. I woke up so early this morning. I woke up at like 10 to 5 and I was just wide awake. And I was like, you know what? I could fight it and try to fall back asleep, but I'm just gonna get up. I'm just gonna get up and just like start the day. I try to wake up between 5:30 and 6 every day. I don't always do that. Sometimes I sleep in till like 7:30. I really just like let my body go and like do whatever it needs to. One thing that the pandemic has really helped improve is my relationship with sleep. I used to be such a perfectionist, and I used to feel like if I wasn't getting up at 5:30, I was wasting my day, and like what was the point of it all if I wasn't like waking up and being super productive. I also set myself up for failure a lot because I tried to schedule in things that I just know were so hard to do in the morning, like working out. Working out is impossible for me in the morning. It just is. I'm just not like a wake up and like let's go type person. At most, I'll wake up and I'll go on a little walk, but that's it. So you saw a little bit of what I do, and that is I journal first thing. I have been so good at journaling lately, which I think has immensely helped, again, my relationship with my writing, because it's something that I wake up and I just do for myself. And I highly recommend, if you are a writer, to try to journal regularly. There are so many resources out there on how to journal and what to journal about, but some of the things that I love to do are I talk about my feelings, obviously. I used to avoid talking about negative feelings because I was really self-conscious about like having a negative record of my life, but that's ridiculous. Sometimes you just need to like get the emotions out on the page and then they're gone and you feel so much better. But one thing I've found that I've been doing is I've been writing a lot of stream of consciousness in my journal. I think that's what that's called. Sometimes I say that and it feels like that's not the word for it. Stream of consciousness. I think that's what it is. Fun fact about me, my writing journey started when I was very young. I used to write poetry and then I got really into stream of consciousness writing, like super into it. And it's why I ultimately ended up going to journalism school, and why I was a journalist briefly was never really thought that I was creative in my writing. I never thought that I could build worlds out, which is funny because I now write fantasy. So it's not true at all. I love it. Wow, this is like a really big tangent. I'm so sorry. I just have a lot of energy and I haven't updated you in a long time. So I just wanted to chat a little bit. But my journaling has turned into stream of consciousness a little bit, and sometimes I write about, you know, what it feels like to go on a walk, or my perfect room, what my perfect room would look like, what my perfect book would be, what it feels like to be lost in fog, things like that has just like come to me and I just randomly decide to write about it. That's what I do. And I try to write for about an hour. I try to journal for about an hour, sometimes less, sometimes more. And it's just been really good. I've been doing that every single day for like the past month and a half. There's something about the pen to paper and just allowing yourself to be really bad at writing. I think that's the other thing is you get so caught up when you're actually constructing a novel in the craft of it, and you can erase your mistakes. If you write a crappy sentence, you can just delete it. But when you're putting pen to paper, there's something to be said about being really thoughtful about the sentence that you're about to put down. So anyhow, that leads me to my next update, which is what I've been reading, because as you saw, I read a little bit in the morning. I usually have multiple books on the go, and one is usually a classic of some sort, or a more literary book, and then the other is a kind of more light, usually fantasy, sometimes historical fiction, just something that's a little bit lighter and a little bit more of the genres. Well, that's not true. I was about to say the genres that I love, but I love all genres, truly. So I usually have multiple books on the go, and then I also have an audiobook, but I don't usually deal with that when I work from home. That's usually when I go to the gym or when I walk to and from work. So what I'm reading currently is you saw me read a little bit of Dr. Zhivago in the morning. I am this much through it, so I have like this much left. I guess I could tell you the page numbers instead of just like flopping the book around. I'm on page 430 and there's about 650 pages in this. I have a very, very big love affair with Russian literature. I don't talk about it often on this channel because I'm still quite new to it, but I think that the writing in this book is absolutely beautiful. The nature writing alone, the descriptions of Russia during this time period are so vivid, and the character of Dr. Zhivago is a very fascinating character. And I know quite a bit about the lead up to the Russian Revolution of 1917, but I don't know a lot about the aftermath and the civil war that happened and the fight between the Red and the White Army, and this is just such a really interesting insight into it. The one thing that I will say is that I wish I had read a little bit more of that history before I dove into it, because this book assumes a lot of knowledge on part of the reader. So it is a little bit dense, but I am really enjoying it. I'm hoping to finish it by the end of this month, and then next month I think I'm going to pick up my very first Charles Dickens. One thing that I do, and I highly recommend, is if there is a classic or a book that you really want to read, but it intimidates you, just read a little bit every single day. What I did for the month of September is I just took the amount of pages in this book and divided it by the amount of days in September. And that gave me how many pages a day I have to read. And it's really only about a half an hour of reading every single day. So highly recommend doing that. Oh, I need a breather. I'm talking really quickly. And I am not reading this book, but I just finished it, which means I get to start another book. But I had to talk about it. I pronounce this Babel, but it could be Babel. I'm not entirely sure how the English would pronounce this because they pronounce basil like basil, so I wonder if this would be Babel. I'm going to pronounce it Babel. This book is phenomenal. If you are in any way interested in historical fantasy, you got to read this. Even if you aren't a big fantasy reader, I would highly recommend reading this because it's very light on the fantasy. I would say. I don't think that it's not hard to understand what's going on here. This book has been hyped up pretty much across the internet, and it deserves every bit of praise it has gotten. It is probably one of my favorite books that I've read this year. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but it's essentially set in the 1800s in England, and it has themes of colonialism and language and translation, and it is so beautifully written. There were some passages in this book that I just kind of stopped and wanted to reread and highlight, and I just really enjoyed it. My favorite part about this book was the magic system. The magic system is probably the most unique system of magic I think I've read in a book. Full stop. Full stop. It was so cool. I don't understand how she came up with it, but phenomenal, phenomenal. So I finished that actually 2 days ago, and I took yesterday off because I actually had to catch up on some Dr. Zhivago pages. So today I am going to pick a new book to read, and that is always an incredibly exciting endeavor for me. I love starting a new book. It is like going on vacation. It is like starting a journey. It is like visiting a new place. It is all of those things, because the most exciting thing for me is like, this could be my next favorite book. This could be a book that like changes my life. Anyway, guys, I love books. I don't know if you know that about me. I love books. I love stories. That being said, I don't think the book I'm going to pick is going to be a next favorite, because after Babel, I just need a little bit of a break when it comes to like super heavy, dense prose. And not that that was super heavy or dense, but it was just a very heavy book, in the best way. Like I cannot recommend that book enough. Honestly, you have to read it. You have to read it. Just read it. But since I'm still reading Dr. Zhivago as well, I just want something that's like super quick and light and fun, and like that I can just kind of get through quickly. So I think I'm going to pick Lake's Edge. Wow, this is super dusty. I bought this last year actually, and I never read it. I didn't get around to it, so I'm gonna start this one. I don't know if it's any good. I don't even know what it's about. Actually, I sent Tom the description yesterday. I was like, oh, this is the book I'm gonna read next, and he read it and was like, oh, that's kind of like an odd plot device, like why do you think that happened? And I was like, oh, truthfully, I have no idea what it's about. I just read that it was like gothic, and I bought it. Because anything that has the word gothic in it when it comes to literature, I will read. Full stop again. I will read it. So I'm going to pick this up and hopefully fly through it. I hope I don't hate it. Okay, let me just quickly tell you what it's about. Nah, I'm not even going to tell you what it's about. I just am going to dive into it. I do like the cover. I think the cover is gorgeous, and I haven't actually taken off the sleeve. Just a regular book. Thrilling stuff. I think that's all my updates. I think that's everything I'm going to tell you. I am going to get down to work now, and then I will write a little bit on my lunch hour, and I will check back in with you in a little bit. I kind of want to talk a little bit about my mood board, so I might talk about that later today. But anywho, this was a long introduction. I hope you're still here. I hope this was interesting. If you are still here, I hope you are cozy. If not, get cozy, and let's get into the day. Let's get into this random Wednesday of writing and living my life. Also, it is the last day in Toronto that is supposed to feel like 30 degrees, at least according to the Weather Network. After today, We're supposed to get a bunch of thunderstorms today. And then after today, the high is like 19 degrees Celsius. So please, I just want it to feel like fall already. Anywho, okay, I'm gonna get to work now.
Take me all the way. Don't you know that I'm capable of it? You believed in my show, and I believed every word you said. I wanted to go up to the shore with you. I wanted to go past the border control. I wanted to go up to the shore with you. I wanted to go everywhere with you. Take me by surprise. You know that I love it when you do. And the first kiss came right after dark.
I guess I should turn off my fireplace ambiance to talk to you. So really quickly, because it gets so hot in here without the air on, I am hoping that this is the last day that we have to have the air on, like just praying. I am in the middle of my writing right now, my lunchtime writing, and I thought that I would quickly talk a little bit about my mood board, but actually, I know I've talked about this book before. I am very slowly making my way through this book, and it's certainly not the first book I've read on World War I. I've done actually a ton of research about World War I. I really focused on it in university, so I know quite a bit, but I just love this book for moments like today. So I'm writing a scene that takes place in a field hospital or a mobile hospital, and one of the great things about this book is it literally covers, like, it has a crazy overview of World War I, and it covers a lot of different areas of World War I, from the beginning to the very end, from politics to life in the trenches, all kinds of things. So they have a page on medical services and medicine, and I'm just reading through it and looking at the pictures and kind of getting a feel for, a very, very brief feel for what it was like before I write my scene. Since I'm writing a historical fantasy, a lot of what I'm writing isn't 100% factually correct. You know, this takes place in a completely different world. It does not take place in our world, but there are elements of the Eastern Front of World War I in this story, and I want to be respectful. You know, I want to honor history in some regard while still being true to my story. So I don't get super bogged down in research, but it's just one of my interests. So it is something that I really like to read about. It's something that I like to research about. And so in a moment like this, where I know I am not directly taking something from history, but I know that obviously field hospitals have existed in, frankly, every single war that's ever been fought, I have a resource. I have plenty of resources to look at and kind of make sure that it's as accurate as possible. Hopefully that made sense. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. I think I've only written about 600 words, nothing super crazy. I'm gonna have to stop soon, but I wanted to talk a little bit about my mood board. So as you can see, I've taken plenty of video of my mood board that is directly in front of me, and there's actually kind of two, kind of three mood boards. One is a little bit of a spooky season October mood board, where for my bullet journal I want to actually have that kind of like dark academia vibes for October, so I just kind of put that up, frankly, because I think the pictures are beautiful. So that's kind of like my life mood board. And then I just have like a random picture from Pinterest that I just really, really enjoyed and wanted to put up because it's all about reading and writing, and again, just like here for the cozy ambiance. And then I have my really big mood board. So I've done a couple videos on my various mood boards for my various books. I am such a visual person. I'm actually a visual writer, if that makes sense. A lot of what I write starts out as images in my head and plays in my head like a movie. And a lot of the time my hands are just kind of trying to keep up with what is happening in my brain. I don't know if that makes sense or sounds weird, but that is all I mean to say is that I am incredibly influenced by pictures, which is why I love this book so much, because I can look at images and then try to translate them to my screen. And the same thing is with my mood board. I think I got all of these pictures on Pinterest. There are really great resources out there that actually are artists uploading images. Unfortunately, I didn't learn about them until after I created this, but going forward, using artists' work that they've actually uploaded for free use, I think is a little bit better. But for now, this is just a personal mood board that I use for my book. It's not something that I'm like reprinting. So one of the questions that I've gotten in previous videos is how I find these images, what I research, and how I put it together. And honestly, this one was a little bit easier because obviously it's my second book. But if you'll see in past mood board videos, it is kind of funny because the first book has a slightly different feel than this book. This book is a lot darker. There's a lot more emotion, and there is a lot more magic in this book, and a lot more warfare, frankly. It's very high stakes. So the magic in my story is elemental based, and there is fire magic, there is earth magic, and then there's a special kind of magic that is almost like ethereal. There's like a spirit magic. So I just literally looked up fire magic, earth magic. I googled that, and then I found images that really spoke to me and printed them off. Some of the other ones are like from my favorite movies and my favorite shows. There is an image from War and Peace, that the BBC edition, that I absolutely love and just feel like my world is set on the Eastern Front of World War I. There is a lot of German and Russian influences. And so I just searched things that had to do with Russian and German stories in World War I, or that time frame. War and Peace is definitely before World War I, but it has that kind of royalty monarchy feel that my book has. Some of the other ones are like from Dunkirk and 1917, which are great movies. Some of them are more World War II. Some of them are frankly like medieval. But again, it was just looking up like World War I, World War II. Pinterest is really good. It will like pick up right away whatever you're searching and try to find as many things as possible and then suggest as many things as possible. So really for me, it's just searching out the themes of my book. I don't, out of respect, I don't Google or search things like World War I aesthetic, because it's a war. There's no such thing as an aesthetic when it comes to war. So, you know, I try to be mindful of that. These are real people's experiences that are deeply horrific and scarring, and since I'm writing about war, I try to be super aware of that. Other things, there's a lot of nature in my book, a lot of dark forests. So I will search, you know, dark forest. I'll search like black forest in Germany. That's kind of how I found it and put it together. And I really, really love it, because when I'm writing and I'm stuck, I can look up at this and I can feel the tone of the book, and I can see scenes and I can see characters in these images, and I just get really excited to write and to get to this point and to get to this feeling. I will say my first book, the mood board, was so helpful and it had that impact. And by the end of my book, I could see my book in my mood board. Another thing that I wanted to show you that was super cool, and I got it this weekend from my mom's from Germany, and we still have family in Germany, and they were visiting, and my cousin, who unfortunately couldn't make it, sent along a present for me. My mom is from the Black Forest area in Germany, and she left when she met my dad. Actually, both my brother and sister were born there. And he sent me this German book, which is the area in which my family is from. And there are various pictures of it all throughout history. And I am so excited. I cannot wait to just do a deep dive and look into this. I mean, I already have been just like flipping through it and like these vast forests. I always joke, like, I don't know why my mom left. I love Canada. I love Canada so much, but like, I can't believe the place that she grew up and how beautiful it was to move to Ontario, you know? A little odd, but I absolutely love it. And again, I'm such a visual person and it's so perfect to flip through it. So those are kind of the resources that I've been using. I also love writing to the 1917 soundtrack. That movie soundtrack is amazing. I mean, that movie is amazing. So I think that's it. I think that's all I'm going to talk about. I'm going to get back to work now. I don't know if you can see me, and I don't know if it's crooked, but let's just do this. So I am about to call it quits. I am going to get back to work. I was about 45 minutes of focus today. Let's see what I managed to write. About 760 words, which is like average. I've been averaging like around 500 words a day. Very slow going. But I read through this, and some of this was actually incredibly helpful. And they talk a lot about where the hospitals are located, what field hospitals were set up for, and what their focus really was. It says, I don't know if any of this is interesting, but I am essentially taking the notes from this and I'm writing it in the notes section. And one of the notes that I find really interesting is that the essential function of field hospitals was to identify and retain the 10% of casualties that required immediate surgery. And that kind of just helps me in this moment to really dictate what the doctors at this field hospital are prioritizing, what the field hospital is going to look like, what soldiers are going to be evacuated. I don't know if any of that will actually end up in the scene, but in order to create an atmosphere, I really want to, as I said, focus on the factual part of the history that I'm inspired by. It also lists some of the ailments that they would be treating and focusing on, which obviously I know going into this story and writing my previous story, the various things that soldiers were afflicted with, but I just think it's interesting. So anyway, I'm just going to show you very quickly me writing it out on my little notes so that tomorrow when I pick up halfway through this scene, I can reread them quickly and just start writing and get that kind of atmosphere down.